Week 12 is almost over. Only 2 more weeks left until the fantasy playoffs. We're here, winners and losers for week 12. And let's jump right into it with someone that maybe you didn't think I was going to start with, but it's Bryce Young. 263 yards passing, a touchdown. He had 20 yards on the ground. And ever since he got benched, Bryce Young has looked better. Is he all pro and maybe number 1 overall pick? No, not quite, but he's looked good. He's led this team, led the offense, right? And, he's averaging, he has 5 touchdowns in the 4 games he's come back. He's averaging about 200 yards passing. And this was his best game maybe of his career. Against a really tough defense, he just looked competent. So Bryce Young here, maybe the future for the Panthers, who knows? But Panthers are better. They almost beat the Chiefs, and Bryce Young looked pretty good against one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. So what do you think about Bryce Young, Dan? Is he the future for the Panthers?
Yeah, he seems to, be coming on a little bit. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they think, It seems like there's the big talk is 2 quarterbacks at the top of the draft. So, there's a number of teams that could use a quarterback. I don't know what Carolina's thoughts are. So he seems to be playing better. Yeah. Maybe if they get a little better team around him or something,
Yeah, possibly. But he's definitely improved since getting benched. You have Jonathan Taylor as a loser here. Only 11 carries for 35 yards going up against the Lions. And I remember saying in the Saturday morning live stream, like, I'm probably going to be starting Jonathan Taylor. And obviously that was a mistake. So are you worried about Jonathan Taylor at all? Or do you think it's just a tough defense?
It's tough defense. They've shut other running backs down. They shut down Joe Mixon, and nobody's really be able to run the ball against them. Even though their defense is the Lions' defense is severely injured. About 6 guys injured on that defense, but I don't know. It just hasn't seemed to have been Jonathan Taylor's year for some reason. I don't know if it's the flow of the offense or whatever. It's just doesn't seem to be good. It's hard to ignore him though on your fantasy team.
I think the most glaring thing is the catches. Only 13 catches this year. He's played in 7 games with Anthony Richardson this year, and he has 8 catches in those 7 games. So like a catch a game. I think that's the most glaring thing because he's still averaging about 80 yards rushing per game, which is pretty good. 5 touchdowns in 9 games is not terrible. So that's pretty close to double-digit touchdowns, but it's the catches. If you're only going to get less than 1.5 catches per game, it's going to be tough unless you have a big touchdown total. So, T.J. Hawkinson could be back. He might be completely back. 9 targets, 7 catches, 114 yards. We've seen 4 games back from Hawkinson. This game, he was kind of back to his usage of last year and how they were using him. Played in 70% of their snaps. They were using him in 12 personnel and 11 personnel as well. He's had 2 good games since coming back, 2 kind of bad games, but I think we can kind of expect this from the rest of the season on from T.J. Hawkinson, who it's easy to forget just how good the guy was the last couple of years. He had 95 catches and 960 yards last year, and he missed 2 games last year. So he was on pace for 100 catches, 1,000-yard season. So kind of elite numbers for sure. Confidence in Hawkinson rest of the season, starting tight end.
Oh, absolutely. He is. You called it. He is back. He's going to produce. Darnold. Darnold hasn't ignored him or anything else. It probably just took a a game or two for to kind of get into the rhythm, having their offense. Now you got a good tight end to throw to, so along with two wide receivers and a running back and everybody else. So
Yeah, absolutely. Kyler Murray, 285 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 9 rushing yards. They didn't even score a touchdown, I don't think, the Cardinals, which is not what we expected because they've been playing better. And Kyler Murray is like the ultimate boom bust quarterback. He's the QB 11 on the year, but start looking at his games and it's, he has a 28.5, a 25, a 21, and a 22, and a 28. But then he also has an 11.3, a 4.8, a 12, a 10, and I always say, like, with the quarterback position, if you're scoring like less than 15 points at the quarterback position, that's when it starts to kill your team. You can live with 15 to 17 every week and have other players, but if you're getting under 15, you're getting 12, 10, 4.8, 11. That's how you lose your weeks. That's how you lose your weeks. So it's just expect this from Kyler. He needs to be boom bust. There's really no rhyme or reason to him because Arizona, they're playing Seattle. We kind of thought of that as a pretty good matchup, but there's just kind of no rhyme or reason here. And you roll the dice with him, or how are we approaching Kyler Murray?
Well, you said it. He's QB 11. I mean, it's kind of, it's a little. It is definitely a hit or miss type situation with him, and I think that everybody was kind of on the Cardinals bandwagon there a week or so ago. They're in first place and this and that and the other, and it's like, nah. It's it's kind of it's the consistency's not there. So unfortunately,
yeah. It's tough to trust for sure. It's tough to trust. Amir Abdullah, I was skeptical about what his workload was going to be. And honestly, like in terms of the actual workload, it wasn't necessarily this amazing. Like he got some more carries. He's always kind of been the receiving back all year, but he got more carries, not quite like, 15, 20 or whatever. But the guy played in almost all the snaps. It was pretty crazy how much he played in. He played in 69 of their 77 total snaps went to Amir Abdullah. So he was just out there all the time. They just didn't really run the ball much. Didn't run the ball too much. I know they were behind, but he gave you 65 total yards and a touchdown with 5 catches. You'll take that, especially when there are 6 teams on a bye. They're on a short week, and they play on Friday. So Zamir White and Alexander Madison could be out again. Would you start Amir Abdullah if he's the guy again, going against the Chiefs, which is, again, probably the toughest matchup for running backs in fantasy football?
I don't know, man. That's going to be a tough one. Their quarterback situation got a little muddier, and with Gardner Minshew hurt, and so obviously catching passes is a big part of his game there and stuff like that. So I don't know, so there's a big question mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just for reference, Kansas City went up against Carolina. Chuba Hubbard, 16 carries, 58 yards for 3.6 yards per carry average, and then 1 catch for 2 yards. He did get a touchdown, so you had a solid week from Chuba, but they did kind of shut him down as well. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about, especially because, they're probably going to be starting Desmond Ridder at quarterback, so like that offense just might not even move the ball. So I don't know. It's tough, especially there's no bye weeks this week, so you probably don't have to start Amir Abdullah, but I would hold on to him just until we know for sure that Zamir White and Madison are back. So Joe Mixon, who was kind of the fantasy MVP this year, got shut down. 14 carries, 22 yards. Thankfully, he gave you 5 catches. So if you play in PPR, you got your 45 total yards with 5 catches, but nothing near what we've been seeing from Mixon, which is, again, fantasy MVP type of stuff. Just Houston in general. They lost to the Titans. Like, really? Houston? Like, CJ Stroud has not been as good. Are they figuring him out? Is it offensive line issues? I don't know. But are you concerned about, like, just Houston's offense in general? And are you concerned about Mixon, or is this just kind of a bump in the road?
I was hearing a discussion on XM radio this morning about Stroud seems to have a little bit of a sophomore slump. Some of his numbers aren't really good. He's getting sacked quite a bit. So the offense, we were almost crowning the Texans into the Super Bowl and stuff, and because they had a pretty good year last year, and they won a playoff game and stuff like that. So it's like I think Mixon's numbers will be there, and it seems like he shouldn't, but he can be shut down. The Lions shut him down, so so there's a little concern about the offensive line there for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Is the
by the way,
line.
the Titans are a good defense.
They are, yeah, they are. They've been up and down, but I know they've had injuries, and they did trade away a couple pieces, and yeah, they're not slouches and stuff. So that's for sure. Moving right along, Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. There's 3 good games now. Again, NBA Jam rules. He's on fire, right? We have 6 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown for Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. Which it's good to see him. Where would you guess if you just had to? I know maybe you don't have JSN on your team and stuff. In terms of total points this year for wide receivers in half PPR, where would you put Jackson, Smith, and Jigba? Wide receiver, what?
15, 18.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's even like, if I had to guess, I think I might even go slightly lower. He's wide receiver 9 this year.
Wow.
But obviously the last 3 weeks, 33.5, 16.8, 16.7. But it's just weird, right? It's weird to see that, like, because it's just been, how many times did we have him on the loser list, this year? Several times. And but it's coming together, it seems like. Tyler Lockett is he's been overtaken. DK Metcalf is still DK Metcalf and stuff, and he's going to be a good receiver and all that. But I think it's JSN time, and we're starting to see that, and we're starting to see him and Gino get on the same page. So it's good to see. 31 targets for JSN over the last 3 weeks. And yeah, he looks like he has about 350, 360 yards. So that is really, really good. So yeah, what are your thoughts on JSN, surprisingly wide receiver 9?
Yeah, I think we, when he was drafted there, I think we expected something like this. So it's not a big surprise. It's just taken a little time. They have Lockett and Metcalf and stuff like that. And I'm not sure how involved Lockett is this year. He already had his one big game of the year earlier this year, I think. And but I think consistency moving forward, he looked really good. We watched bits and pieces of that game, so he looks like he's definitely part of the offense, and one of Geno Smith's targets.
Yeah. And again, Geno Smith leading. It helps when he's leading the league in passing yards, right? So that definitely helps all these receivers. But moving along, we have Najee Harris here, 16 carries, 41 yards, 2 catches. 13 yards all the way back on the snow game. It was a tough matchup against Cleveland. Cleveland still, they get up for these games a little bit. They still have playmakers on defense and all that. I'd say one concerning thing is, though, not even just the stats, is he only played 39% of the snaps, and Jalen Warren was out there more. So are we seeing the Warren take over a little bit? Which, he's a more efficient running back, and he's more explosive and all that, and he's back healthy now. And we saw from Jalen Warren 57% of the snaps, 45 rushing yards, 19 receiving yards, 3 catches, a touchdown. I think Warren got a goal line touchdown. So are you worried about Jalen Warren kind of making Najee irrelevant, or
Yeah, I think it's kind of he's a big part of the offense, though. I mean, it'd be kind of odd to see them move away much farther than it could have been just the game or something. He's had, I think he's had okay games with Russell Wilson. And so it's like his last year on his contract. So if he's, it'll be interesting. But the rest of the year, I mean, you got to play him almost. He's gonna. 39% is pretty low, though. That was that's kind of surprising.
Yeah, it's pretty low, and yeah, I mean, if he's not going to be out there, you almost don't have to play him because he's going to turn into a kind of a touchdown or bust type of guy. I mean, he already kind of was to a certain extent. He was efficient in the last few games, but yeah, I mean, if he's not going to get more work, especially at the goal line, it's going to be tough. Tony Pollard, I put here, 29 carries, 119 yards, 3 catches, 10 yards, and a touchdown. Tony Pollard this year has about 1,000 scrimmage yards. He has exactly 800 rushing yards. He has 33 catches. He has only 4 touchdowns total, which, you'd like to see that a little bit higher. But I think if you told someone who drafted Tony Pollard, who fell in the draft, if you told someone who drafted him that he would have over 1,500 total yards with probably 45 catches, 50 catches, you'd be ecstatic, because he was going pretty late in drafts. So Tajay Spears was out. He got all the work, but I'm not too worried about Tajay Spears. But it feels like we've been talking about, if he's healthy for a while, and he's obviously not healthy. So Tony Pollard, really good this year. Where would you think he lands on the running back total points? I'm not even sure myself. I'm going to look.
I bet you he's number 10.
Ooh, a lot lower than I thought. 20.
20. Oh wow!
Which just shows you how good running backs have been this year.
Yeah, no kidding.
For a guy that's going to have 1,500 total yards and 50 catches to be RB 20 in total points. Yeah, I'm surprised by that. But into another loser here, Kate Otten, 3 targets, 1 catch, 30 yards. It does come in the same week that Mike Evans comes back, which is going to be concerning for people. People are going to be questioning, is it because of Mike Evans, who, by the way, didn't really have a great game. I mean, he had a fine game himself, but what's weird is Baker threw for 240 yards in the first half, but he only ended up with 294 in the whole season. So do you think this is the Mike Evans effect for Kate Otten, who, again, Mike Evans, only 6 targets, but or do you think it's just more of, it happens, sometimes you have bad games?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a combination of both, but I think there is a Mike Evans effect there. So, but I kind of, it just seems like Otten still should be part of the big part of the offense, So,
yeah, it should be, right. I think we hope. I think we hope I think he will. I think he will, and so I'm not super worried. We'll see if it happens again, type of thing. But next up, we have Saquon Barkley, who kind of just absolutely destroyed the Rams. 255 yards on the ground, which I was just looking at, is 9th most of all time. So, and the most in a single game looks like since 2010. the most rushing yards in a single game, which was Jamal Charles, for over 300 total yards. Saquon Barkley is on pace to break the single season rushing record. He's on pace for over 2,000 yards. He's on pace for over 2,500 total yards. Should he be in MVP conversations?
Absolutely. I mean, keeps it up the rest of the year, and he's not a spring chicken anymore. I mean, I think he's a 28-year-old running back. So,
27.
He's pretty good. He's looking really good and fit. I mean, he's kind of making the Eagles go. So, definitely in the MVP consideration.
Yeah, he should be. He absolutely should be. It's just, I mean, it's gonna be fun to watch him in how far he goes. But man, he just the last 2 weeks have been insane for him. He has 500 total yards exactly in the last 2 weeks. That's more than probably some multiple teams have had over the last couple of weeks. So 4 touchdowns total. Like, yeah, the guy's awesome, and we know. We knew he was capable of this, and so it's cool to see. It'll be cool to follow if he does break it. So, a couple more here. We have Tyreek Hill, 6 targets, 5 catches, 48 yards. He is now behind Jonnu Smith, who is the number 1 target for this team. It seems like 11 targets for Jonnu Smith, 9 for 87. But Tyreek Hill, are we getting concerned that it's age more than anything? Like, are we concerned that it's like he is a 30-year-old receiver, and this is kind of when we start seeing the downfall a little bit, 30, 31-ish. We didn't really think it was going to happen because he was awesome last year, but you look at this year, 11 games, 571 total receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. So he's not on pace for any type of monster season. So are you worried that it is a little bit about age here?
Yeah, I think I'd be a little concerned, and dudes played a lot of football and ran a lot of long routes, and we're gonna hear, we got a little bit of a preview of what the off-season excuse is going to be about my wrist is hurt and stuff like that, and maybe it is, but he's definitely gone down a notch or two. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but and Miami's offense has changed. They're not throwing downfield, and I think a lot of that has to do with protecting Tua and not getting him hit again, and so they get the ball out quick, and that's obviously that doesn't connect with Tyreek Hill's skill set. So, but yeah, it's unfortunate to see. Like, you gotta, he's even potentially bench worthy, depending on how good your team is. So, 2 more here. I have Rico Dowdle as a winner. He had 19 carries, 86 yards, 3 catches, 12 yards, but he kind of took over that backfield. He played 40 snaps compared to Zeke, only 13 for Zeke. He was 32 snaps. Basically, he was the early downs guy. The short yardage guy, the goal line guy. Zeke just came in and spelled him for a bit, but they would use Hunter Lupke, fullback, as their third down guy. But other than that, it was it's all Rico. So I think you kind of look at Rico as a low end RB2 rest of the season, especially if he's going to be getting 20 touches there. So, and then the last one I just want to bring up is Ramondre Stevenson. 8 carries, 13 yards for Ramondre, and he kind of started losing the backfield. It was Antonio Gibson started to take over a bit. Under 50% of the snaps for Ramondre, so unfortunate to see. It's tough to trust him on a bad offense anyways, but if he's not going to be getting the work, obviously, he's going to be kind of a bust. But it's just tough to see. 3 of the last 4 weeks heading into this week, he had 20 carries, and he had 8 this week, and they didn't really use him, and he wasn't playing well. So worried about Ramondre, and he might not even be start worthy, or still going to give it another week.
Yeah, he's. I think I'd give it another week and just see, how it's going to pan out. And It's kind of a little disappointing, though. I mean, New England obviously with Drake May being a little better, it's maybe there's not as much of an emphasis on the run game anymore. I don't know.
Mhm.
Their offense. I mean, they're still not a juggernaut, that's for sure. But
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely not. So, but we are going to wrap it up. I'm sure a lot of fantasy games are still up in the air. We have Herbert, you have Lamar, Derrick Henry, maybe McConkey if he plays Zay Flowers. So, Mark Andrews, still a lot of guys to go. So, good luck if you need that. We'll probably go, or me or whoever will go live after the game. We'll see how that goes. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and we will see you guys after week 13.